Dolphins Today by Chat Sports back here with another video today on the latest injury news surrounding the Miami Dolphins, because we have a massive injury update on Bradley Chubb as well as offensive lineman Isaiah Wynn. Both of those players are still on the PUP list, and Mike McDaniel provided a snapshot of when they could possibly return for the Miami Dolphins. But also the Dolphins held a practice after they finally returned from their bye week. We have an attendance notes to talk about on today's show. But before we do that, make sure you are following us over on Instagram at Dolphins Today. IG is the handle. We post daily coverage over there in between our videos. And if you want to be up to date on everything surrounding the Dolphins, we recommend you also follow us on Instagram. And we told you last week, if you followed us, the first 10 people would get a shout out on the show. So shout out to these 10 awesome individuals who followed us on our Instagram page. They will not regret it, and I promise you, if you have not already, you need to get on it right now because we're posting a bunch of content over there. All right, let's start with the Bradley Chubb injury update now, because Mike McDaniel spoke on when Chubb could possibly return for the Miami Dolphins, and it doesn't sound like it will be anytime soon. Specifically, Mike McDaniel said that I don't expect to see Bradley this week, and as far as weeks moving forward, we'll see. I'm optimistic for his return this season. I think he will absolutely return this year. He suffered that torn ACL and all that other knee issues at Week 16 last year against the Ravens, and I would guess he returns before December. Do I think it will be in October? Do I think it will be in November? I think it's close to be that end of November range. I think we'll see him around that time of against Thanksgiving, against the Green Bay Packers. That is 7 games from now, by the way, in Week 13. So I am a little curious to see when he's going to be able to return. I'm purely speculating, but I do feel as if a return around that time frame would make a lot of sense for him based off when you return from a knee injury this serious like Bradley Chubb. And I don't think he's going to be out for the year. I think he's going to be back relatively soon. And he's someone that's very important for the Miami Dolphins because he, when healthy, is one of the best pass rushers in all of football. Going back to his time with Denver before being dealt to Miami, he was spectacular. He battled injuries there, of course, but then in his 1.5 years in Miami so far, he's been extremely good, and he was on pace to have a career season. And I can't really say on pace because he did play in 16 games, so he practically played a full season, just missed one game at the end of the year due to that knee injury, and he was really good. Him and Jalen Phillips were fantastic. Him, Christian Wilkins, and Zach Sealer created a really good pass rush for Miami last season. And if we're talking about how this current team of Miami fares, the Dolphins absolutely need him. Especially with Jalen Phillips' injury, and you now having to rely on Emmanuel Ogbah and Chop Robinson as your top 2 edges, with Tyus Bowser and Quentin Bell being your reserve edges because Mohamed Kamara has been a healthy scratch every single week. The Dolphins clearly need more pass rush here. They rank in the bottom half of almost every statistical category in terms of getting after the quarterback. They only blitz about half of the time. I mean, I shouldn't say half the time. They blitz percentage is half in the NFL. It ranks 15th, 16th in the National Football League. So, there is improvements needed specifically on the pass rushing department, and Bradley Chubb would obviously help that a lot, considering he's one of the most experienced pass rushers in the entire NFL. We're going to continue the conversation here in just a second, but predict it for me. When will Bradley Chubb return? I think it's going to be near the end of November, but let me know your thoughts when he is going to return to the Dolphins down in the comment section. I mentioned it, but they definitely need him on this group because when you look at the edge department, it's bare, man. And coming into the season, I truly did believe, and you can roll back the tape, that edge was one of the top positions on this Dolphins roster. I ranked wide receiver number 2 behind running backs, cornerbacks number 3, and then I had edge rushers number 4 because Jalen Phillips, Emmanuel Ogbah, Chop Robinson, Bradley Chubb was eventually going to return, but then with Phillips being injured and other injuries as well, and not really the explosiveness and productivity that we expected from a guy like Chop Robinson, like a guy like Mohamed Kamara, you just simply don't have that much in the terms of rushing the passer from the edge. And when we talk about priorities for the Miami Dolphins, I think if he isn't going to return within the next month or so, the Dolphins should seriously consider trading for an edge at the deadline. The deadline is November 5th. That's 3 games from now. They'll play the Cardinals, Colts, and Bills before they have to make a decision on edge rusher. They go 2-1 in those 3 games, and Bradley Chubb is like, still 3-4 weeks away. I think adding a low-level edge could very much be in the realm of possibility. We talked about Azeez Ojulari on Sunday's video as a potential trade target for Miami from the New York Giants. I would revisit him potentially if that is something that the Dolphins deem they need. And I personally believe it is something they need on this team, especially with Bradley Chubb's return not being anytime in the near future. All right, make sure you are subscribed to the channel because we're dropping daily Dolphins videos. We're also live twice a week, once for game day and once on Tuesday afternoons. Hit that sub button. We're under 150 subscribers away from 62K. Hit that sub button. Help us get there. It's a big milestone at the channel. We'd greatly appreciate it, and you wouldn't regret it because you're going to be up to date on everything surrounding the Miami Dolphins. Speaking of a Dolphin update, how about Isaiah Wynn, the offensive lineman who is projected to be the starting guard for this team at left guard, but is yet to see the football field, is on the PUP list himself. Well, Mike McDaniel alluded to the fact that he suffered a pretty major setback. There were some lingering things that came up that weren't the quad. Oh boy. He's been so unbelievable, thirsting for what he just got started last year. Hope to get him on the field in 2024. Now, Mike McDaniel did say that he hopes to get him on the football field in 2024, but it's hard for me to see him really coming back for this Dolphins football team and making a difference because based on the way Mike McDaniel spoke about it, it doesn't feel like Wynn is even close to a return. We're talking another 6-7 weeks, and if he does return in that little time frame I just gave you and he gets onto the football field in late November, early December at the earliest, well then what's the point of playing him unless Robert Jones gets hurt? Because Robert Jones has started the entire season, and I don't feel like you make that switch to Isaiah Wynn because one, Isaiah Wynn isn't even that good of a player to start with to immediately get a full starting role when he comes back. To me, that doesn't make a lot of sense, and we're going to talk about that more in depth here in just a second. But we are sponsored by Game Time, the #1 ticketing app on the market, and with their new feature called Game Time Picks, it allows you to get the best value on your seats. It filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. You get to see your view of your seat in the app before you buy, whether it is a comedy show, concert, theater. It doesn't matter. You get to see where you're sitting in your specific venue no matter where you are going. And they also have the lowest price guaranteed. If Game Time does not have the lowest price and you find a ticket on a different service for a cheaper price in the same exact seat, same exact row, you get 110% of your credit from Game Time. I used Game Time to get my tickets to Mets Dodgers NLCS Game 4. Me and my dad are going down to Queens. I'm going to be very excited for that. I am a Mets fan. But make sure you guys get started with Game Time today. Download the app and use code ChatSports to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But remember, download the app, create an account, use code CHATSPORTS to get $20 off your first purchase. Appreciate Game Time for sponsoring today's show. I love them. Chat Sports loves them. You guys get started today. What time is it? It's game time. And when we get back to the offensive line talk here, sure, would it be nice to get Isaiah Wynn back at some point? Yes. And would I rather have him than Lester Cotton and potentially the UDFA Andrew Poyer? Yeah, probably I would. But when you think of what Robert Jones has actually done this year, and as much as I've been on his case at times, it hasn't been as bad as it could be. He's been out there for almost every single snap. Now, he missed some time in that game against the Buffalo Bills in Week 2. He left with an injury, but he's been pretty durable. He played in all 5 games. He started in all 5 games before the bye week. His PFF numbers aren't gaudy, but they're at least not horrific. They're high 50s, low 60s. He's only allowed 2 sacks, only had 2 penalties. Now, one of the penalties was a backbreak holding call, but either way, through 5 games, he's only been whistled for a flag twice. There could be worse options out there. And yes, we have talked at nauseum at the channel how we believe a better left guard needs to be added to this roster at some point within the next 365 days. But if we're going to be honest, Isaiah Wynn returning after not playing for a very long time in this entire season would not be an immediate upgrade over Robert Jones. It just simply wouldn't, because he wouldn't have the game reps to go right from the PUP list onto the practice field, onto the field against a real opponent and a real pass rusher. So to me, unless Robert Jones gets injured, I don't think it would be smart to just go with Isaiah Wynn as soon as he returns. Now, it would be nice to get that depth off the bench for Miami, but the former first-round pick and former New England Patriots should not be the starter when he comes back like he was slated to be in the offseason. Make the call. Maybe you disagree with me, though. Should the Dolphins start Isaiah Wynn when he's ready to return? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. Type Y for yes or type N for no. All right, let's get into some Dolphins practice notes to round out today's episode here at Dolphins Today, because they did return to the practice field after a lot of time off, just 4 or 5 days with the bye week. But here are the players that did not, at least was not seen at practice from media members. And there was only 4 names: David Long Jr., Jordan Poyer, Emmanuel Ogbah, and Mo Kamara. Jordan Poyer trying to return from that shin injury that kept him out of Week 5 against New England. I would expect Jordan Poyer to play. I also expect David Long Jr. to play as well. I think this might have been just precautionary reasons, if you will. He played against the Patriots in Week 5. He's been dealing with a hamstring injury, but 2 weeks off here, should be able to go this week. Emmanuel Ogbah, I believe the same thing. Mo Kamara is interesting because, remember, he's been a healthy scratch every single week. And Tyus Bowser got to start over him in Week 5 against New England after being signed 3 days before the game. That caught my attention, caught a lot of people's attention. It was interesting. But there's something going on with Mo, and it's something that I'm going to definitely keep my eye on. And if I see any more information or get any more updates, we'll let you know for sure. A practice player that was there but not participating fully was Devon Achane, the running back, who left the game against New England with a concussion, in concussion protocol. I think he is fine, though, because he did post on social media he was celebrating his birthday. He turned 23 Jordan Year this past weekend, and he had a party. So maybe he's going Malik Neighbors on us, or maybe he's actually progressing really well in his recovery from a concussion. Either way, it's not the most concerning thing to me, because I think we've proven that even with HN out of the lineup, Jalen Wright's able to step in and be productive. Now, if they have all 3 backs against the Colts defense that ranks bottom 3 in the National Football League in rush defense, when you have Raheem Mostert, Devon Achane, and Jalen Wright, you're probably going to be very, very fun and on the ground. All right, last update here on today's show is Javon Holland, because remember, he suffered a broken bone against New England in Week 5, labeled week to week. He was actually at practice today with a left cast on his hand, but he wasn't doing much football activity. Remember, he already has been ruled out for this upcoming game against the Colts. He was labeled as week to week. But McDaniel already ruled him out last week for this week coming up against the Colts. But I think it's really good news for Miami that he was not placed on IR, because IR means he would have missed a minimum of 4 games. And the Dolphins clearly believe he can be back in 2-3 weeks from now. He wouldn't miss a full 4-game stretch. And that broken hand, maybe it'll limit him. Maybe he'll have to wear a cast, but it seems likely that he will be on the football field within the next 4 games. Maybe it's against the Cardinals in Week 8, maybe against the Bills in Week 9, but I would assume it's in the next 3 weeks because, well, they didn't place him on IR, so they obviously expect him to be returned very, very soon. All right, that's going to do it for today's show. Like I said off the top, make sure you're following us on Instagram. We post short-form content, daily updates in between our videos here on the channel. If you want 24/7 coverage for the Miami Dolphins, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you're following us on Instagram. I'll see you tomorrow with a live stream and more videos. Go Fins.